The Others is recently out on 4K here in the UK. I believe it's just been released by Criterion in the USA. And what I should have noticed, no HDR on the front cover. But does it need it? Let's see if we can find out. So then, The Others on 4K. This comes with Dolby Atmos sound, but there is an option within the menu for DTS-HD 5.1 because I've got THX51 in here. That's what I selected, but afterwards I went through much of the film with Dolby Atmos selected, and that actually sounded better to the DTS51. So that's perhaps one thing to bear in mind if you're watching this through a 5.1 system. It has an aspect ratio of 1.85 to 1 and comes with plenty of extra features. I think most of these extra features have been seen before on the DVD and probably the Blu-ray, but all the extra features that are present appear to be on both the 4K disc and the Blu-ray, and there is one all-new extra, and that's a 50-minute approximately documentary on the making of The Others. And in this you'll see the director Alejandro Amenabar, Nicole Kidman, Christopher Ecclestone and plenty of others. I found it an interesting documentary that's well worth watching. This film was shot in Spain at an estimated budget of $17 million and grossed at the worldwide box office approximately $210 million, so a massive success in terms of profits. I did see this film at the cinema and I remember very much enjoying it. However, I can't actually remember anything else from that cinema visit, one of those rare occasions where I've got no memory of it, but I had a lot going on at the time and quite a few memories seem to have slipped away from then. But it came out on DVD soon after. This is the Region 2 DVD. This is a substantial package. It's an original Amaray case, which is a very firm case with the original Amaray second disc tray in it, a little leaflet there and a few other things. It's quite heavy. It's heavier than the new 4K pack, feels more substantial, although this is incredibly nice too, with a lovely artwork, a representation, Nicole Kidman, the daughter, in the communion suit there, the communion outfit. But this one feels really heavy, sturdy, substantial and very special as a result. And so I've always particularly liked this. I've run it many times, ran it about a year, 18 months ago actually. If I'd have known the 4K was coming out, maybe I'd have held off. But pretty good pictures as I recall, and very good sound, and that sound carries over to this. So I haven't got Dolby Atmos in here, and people are telling me the haunted house effects with the Atmos are wonderful, but it was always wonderful with Dolby Digital and it's more wonderful now. So very good sound. But the HDR, now there's no mention of HDR on the front, so that probably tells us. But on the back here there is the usual mention of HDR. I think there's a bit of an error having it on there, so that was a bit misleading. And when this first came on, I hit the HDR button and it said this is only available for content with HDR. I thought, what have I done wrong? So I went and checked on my television where I've got a second 4K player, and indeed it was the same on there, no HDR. So that confirmed it was one of those releases without HDR. Now, to start with, I thought this was probably a mistake, but after a while I thought, I'm not so sure. Does it actually need HDR? I thought it's going to be a bit of a letdown because this is going to be perceptibly exactly the same as the Blu-ray. But afterwards I put the Blu-ray on and I thought, that's odd. I think the 4K is better because I've been looking at a lot more detail on the 4K than was evident on the Blu-ray, and it's actually colour, definition and perhaps also density, but I'm not so sure on that. It could be the superior colour of the standard 4K with no HDR that's giving us that benefit of the density. And there's another thing I thought of, that this is a haunted house story which has got very black blacks. If they'd have applied HDR, would they be bringing out some of the crushing from the blacks and we'd be able to peer into the darkness and see other parts of the set? So it's possibly a deliberate thing. They decided to do this without HDR because they felt it would look better. And when it had finished on 4K, I put the Blu-ray in, I went back to the 4K, back to the Blu-ray, back to the 4K, and I thought they've done the right thing. Now to start with, I thought this video would do well because I'll be able to put on the thumbnail, buyer beware, something like that, and that always generates views. But I'm pleased to say I don't have to put that because I think this is a good representation of a 35mm print, and I can say that with some authority because I've actually got the trailer on 35mm. Now that's not going to be as good a quality as a 35mm release print, I don't think, but it has got a good representation of that, and therefore I can gauge from that how good this 4K is, and I think it's very good. Now there's not as much film grain present on that trailer, but that could be because I'm not punching so much light through it. Could also be that it's not a scan of the original negative that's then shrunk down onto digital video or onto a film general release print, and that always exacerbates film grain. But it has got a very good look to it that does look similar, very similar to this 4K disc. So if I'd have known this hadn't had HDR on it, I probably wouldn't have bought it, but now I'm glad I didn't know it didn't have HDR because I have bought it and I'm very pleased to have it. So a nice surprise. I think they've done the right thing, and no HDR actually worked with this ghost story. It's supposed to give you a few jump scares, a few shivers, and I think it works extremely well on this 4K release. The Blu-ray, not so well. I wouldn't recommend that, which is the converse of how I started this. I thought I was going to say just buy the Blu-ray because you won't get any less by just getting the Blu-ray, but that's not the case. So a surprising recommendation from me for the others 4K. Now then, having mentioned 35mm film again, Film is Fabulous is coming up on the 29th of October at the Phoenix Cinema and Art Centre in Leicester. We're running this in conjunction with the De Montfort University, who are hosting this one, which is jolly nice of them. Check out filmisfabulous.org.uk for all the latest information and for tickets, and maybe I'll see you there. It should be a good place to buy film and projectors, so if you're thinking about going down that line or just intrigued, this could be the do for you, particularly if you're in the Midlands area. Last thing I think I'll say is I got the others at HMV in Newbury, but I got a few more while I was there, and one that people have been asking me to take a look at, the Criterion release of After Hours. I've never actually seen this one, so I'm expecting quite a lot of fun with that one. But they've got a good deal on in HMV as usual at the moment, and they've got this 3 for £30 deal, and I was going through the shelves looking at every title, and I saw Psycho in the 3 for £30, and then on the usual shelves couldn't find any more, so I went round the shop to find out where they had a stand. They had a stand with about a dozen or so titles on there, and among them was The Lost Boys, which is another one I've never seen, but I thought Halloween coming up, a lot of people are watching horror films all through October. Why don't I do the same? So Psycho, let's get The Lost Boys as well. But one I went to look at recently, and so disappointing because it's one of my favourites, one of my favourite 4Ks really, and it's developed the 4K fault. And well, as it was in the 3 for £30, I've got a backup copy of The Shining, so I'll be able to watch that after all. Another one that has got the 4K fault is actually a brand new release of Plane. Now, I thoroughly enjoyed this film, but when it got to the layer change, it got the 4K fault, started staggering, and we had to miss a minute to get through it. I did catch up on that minute via the Blu-ray afterwards, but this one had to go back. Got that one from HMV in Swindon, and very nice of them the way they dealt with it. Let me swap it for another film, 65, which is a dinosaur film. And let me say something controversial here. I think 65 might be the best dinosaur film I've ever seen. So there you are. Thought I'd throw that into the mix. I think Jurassic Park probably is still the best, but let's see what others out there think. I thoroughly enjoyed 65. It was a very nice surprise again. And even though I'm not the biggest fan of modern films, I have to admit there have been some very good films lately. Right, I think that brings us to the end. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like and perhaps consider subscribing so I'll be encouraged to carry on creating similar content to this. Until the next video, or maybe I'll see you at Film is Fabulous, bye bye for now.